Alright, restreaming done. Let's see if it picks it up.
Fingers crossed.
It's going there.
I don't see anything on Twitch yet.
Yeah, I don't know. It may or may not work on Twitch, but we'll let folks kind of get in and stuff as I try to get it to roll. It's going.
I don't see anything on Twitch. Do I need to refresh or something?
No, it's it may not be this. I think we're only going to YouTube right now, and I need to change the source key here for outputs. Tell them all that we probably will be going back down real quick as I get to stream on all places. Alright, so that should go to everybody. If we did it right.
There's a commercial on Twitch. Oops. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I see it going. It's not. It was going to Twitch and the other. So.
Is it doing Periscope too?
I had to turn off Periscope because Periscope was saying 800 kilobits is the max, and I was sending 3200 to it.
Gotcha.
So on, we should be on live on both.
It is.
So we should be live on both, folks.
It is.
We good? Make sure I'm gonna get the stream deck set up. We're going to be working graphics and everything else for that piece there. Not dropping any frames. Excellent. And they can hear us. Everything's good. Yeah, you can tell Barnacles that we're live on there. Make sure you guys can see us. What's up? Get some folks in here. We're going to be covering quite a few things today. We're going to be going through some maintenance stuff. We actually have some of the rigs back from the shop, and we're just going to be doing some cleaning and stuff. I'm just going to walk you guys through what I go through when we go through and how often we do that, and kind of the things that you look for. Just a basic practice that takes care of the cards, it takes care of the materials and stuff that you have on the rig, especially if it's not around you and it's like in a warehouse or something like that that doesn't have a lot of good, air filtration and all that. You want to, I mean, these things are your babies. You need to take care of them. You need to spend that time. It's like any other kind of yearly maintenance that you should do. We do it about every 6 months, but I want to make sure everybody can see us. It looks like I'm cutting my head off. I'm going to bring the camera up just a hair. Let's bring this up. Just tilt it that way. Make sure we're good. And Miss BBT here. So I'm going to be swapping some of the rigs around and stuff and letting you guys see what we're doing. We'll talk the different things when I'm talking about what do you do from a maintenance standpoint. What do I do anyways? There's other things that you guys could suggest too that you do. Again, we don't have all of the answers to it, but I'm just telling you what we do when it comes to taking care of the rigs. And then we'll get into some troubleshooting questions. I've had a lot of, anybody that was just watching our last video that I posted on YouTube saw that I had about 69,000 unread emails. Almost all of those are on BitsBeTrippin email address, the main bitsbetrippin@gmail. Part of the people ask us why haven't we switched to support@bitsbetrippin.com and all that. There are so many people that connect with us on bitsbetrippin@gmail.com. To change that email right now just seems kind of stupid. So I'm just holding it for right now. Eventually, sometime maybe this year, as we start to more legitimize the business on other ventures and stuff, then we'll probably switch the email around. But I've been trying to go through some of that. I pull those in to kind of do a Pareto against them and see if people are asking the same kind of questions. It also gives me a baseline of what you guys are struggling with out there and for what we can go and try to tackle or to see if we have the same kind of issues to help you guys. So and then we'll get in. I'll get into that piece with the troubleshooting piece. We'll talk through some of the issues. We'll see if we can replicate a couple of the issues, and I can walk through how we get through those issues. If we're helping people or we're reaching out to people, or if I'm remoting into somebody's setup and helping them through it, kind of the steps that we go through, the basic. There's a handful of just basic, I'd call steps that you go through to save you a lot of time. When you're troubleshooting your rig, and I know people probably want to do some table flipping sometimes with their rigs, especially if everything's been going well. So we'll cover some of those things today, and then we'll probably swap a few of the rigs around. I'm showing you guys kind of what we're mining right now, what we've been testing with the last few days. It's a new coin. It's not on any exchanges yet, but it's a very brand new coin. It's kind of like what Ubik was back in March of this last year, when a lot of people didn't know what it was, and then we started mining it, and a lot more people started getting into it. They had got onto a couple big exchanges and stuff. This is not on any exchanges yet. It's Ravencoin, and we'll explain it. It's a new type of algorithm, and we've been working with that for the last few days, trying to figure out kind of the optimization of it. It's using a CC miner, so it has. It's kind of, I'd call it a very alpha miner. It's a new algorithm. It has 16 different algorithms that they roll through the proof of work, which causes some cards to be really good, and then like from an NVIDIA standpoint, there are no AMD miners yet for it, but it's obviously development. But I'll take you guys through that and kind of anybody that's been trying to mine it, how we got it to be stable with a full rig, because a lot of people are having issues with even trying to get it more than a couple cards. So we'll go through that. I'll show you guys that's kind of set up, and we'll get into an ask me anything kind of thing and questions. I haven't really had one of those in the last few. We've had a few videos, but I haven't been able to really answer questions for you guys. So if you have any questions, anything that's wrong with your rig, you guys can drop us a line there. Little streaming issues.
Did you get the subscriber thing up?
No, I don't have any of the auto subscriber stuff yet. So we're gonna add some more automation overlay stuff in the next few days. I have somebody that's gonna try to come in and help us get all that kind of stuff all set up. The configuration management when it comes to the streaming stuff, I'm not an expert on. So this whole fact that we're live casting across both Twitch and YouTube is kind of a next evolution. And then at some point today, we're gonna see. I had a methodology I was gonna use for the random picker, but since we're simulcasting, I kind of made that kind of more complex, but we're going to be giving away 5 of these BBT just mouse pads. They're just normal mouse pads, pretty cool looking. We got kind of a silver reflective. I don't know, I think it's kind of cool, but we'll be giving away some of those today. We've taken essentially the folks that are in the chat, just putting those into a random piece and just randomly pick people, and then you guys can reach out with your name and an email to us, and we'll, with your shipping address, I don't care, this is worldwide, I'll ship it anywhere on this planet to you guys. So we'll take care of all that and give you guys a cool keepsake for BBT. So what we got 10 on Twitch. Yes, we're breaking some boundaries, folks. And then Yeah, cool. So we'll get into it right now. So from a maintenance standpoint, one of the very first key items that I go and look for when I'm looking at a rig, I'm shutting it down for a couple hours, is I go through and I do essentially a cable inspection. When we put loads on all these different cards for such a long time, one of the key things you want to check a lot, and I kind of had it down here, is if you're using your SATA, like on the newer risers, the 6-pin to SATA connectors, if you're using these or if you're going straight into the 6-pin, both with the version 006, 7s, and 8s, the C editions, you want to inspect those cables after you've been running it for quite a long time, especially if you've been dual mining. You want to make sure that you're not having any kind of warping or melting of the cable. When you have these things, SATA in general is not really made for heavy loads. That's why we tell people to just have no more than 2 cards on one of these guys, and if you're dual mining, it's really advantageous to drop it just to a single SATA. Now that's usually going to have you expand to a couple power supplies or use one of the server power supply solutions coming straight into a 6-pin to offset that, but you want to do a cable inspections. I like doing it about every 6 months. It's a couple hours. Just rotate the rigs. Don't shut down your whole entire farm. Go rig by rig. Take the time. Put it on a calendar. Have a reminder set up for it. It is not worth losing a rig or burning up some equipment. So you want to make sure you're maintaining it correctly. So go through, take the 10 minutes per rig, shut it down, inspect all your wires. Just follow them through. You can reseat your risers. Sometimes, especially if these kind of gravity builds where the risers kind of just hang and there's nothing supporting the bottom of it. If you had it clipped, great, but just make sure everything's good and settled. Do a review of all your wiring. Make sure that you have no issues when it comes to warping.
How do you use the Alienware laptop without getting fingerprint or wrist prints everywhere? There's little droplets here. Is that what they're talking about, or I don't know?
The Alienware's material on that laptop is susceptible to definitely fingerprints. You just clean it. You know, just have any kind of normal maintenance. Just wipe it down after you're done using it.
There's little spiders here. I guess there are wrist prints there.
Yeah, you don't. It's just part of that. It's part of the job, bro. I mean, it's just what happens. Just keep it clean, wipe it down. Back on the rig. So your first step's cable just cable review. There's no sense to going on to the next steps if you have an issue like a burnt cable or something that looks like it's having some kind of issue. Especially on this kind of build where we have actually extenders, where we're taking the 8-pin off of the main power supply, off the 6-pin extension, and taking from a 6 to an 8 on this particular build. On the GTX 1070 Ti's, we do that with like a 1300 G2 where we're using these kind of extenders. I like rechecking these cables, making sure everything's good to go. Again, it's just a recheck of all your cables, make sure there's no warping or any kind of like that. You'll see tons of different examples out there where too much heat or too much heat was caused by too much overload on an actual cable, and you'll see some fraying at the end or some melting. Additionally, if you have these rigs next to any kind of heavy airflow that is a lot cooler than the rig, cold air blowing over hot surfaces, there's physics involved. You'll get condensation if the humidity is at the right level. So you want to try to keep we keep these little cheap, and I'll link these because I think these things are like $3. And I mean, mind you, there's probably a degree of error, but these little tiny AccuRite monitors monitor humidity and temperatures, right? This is 25 Celsius in here right now. You can come in here and flip it to Fahrenheit. That's 77 Fahrenheit right now because we turned off the fans that are in here. That's pretty warm. Right now outside it's about 62 degrees. It's 16% humidity here, which is kind of low. You want to have around 20-22% is what we like to have around here to kind of maintain it. If you have 40 and higher % of humidity, like in your house or in your room, and you're rolling cold air across your rigs, you will get a level of condensation to happen. And what will happen is the results of that is where these endpoints of these cables connect into like your SATA and or back here, you'll start to get this kind of it's like the battery acid look, to where it starts to kind of fray up the ends there, and you'll start to see some condensation. It turns green. If you have that oxidation, that means you're running too much cold air over your rig. It's about just moving air, not blowing cold air onto them. There's danger in rolling cold air that's significantly colder over a hot surface like that. It's just physics, it's the way the planet works. You have too much humidity, you're going to create condensation, you're going to burn up your stuff. There's a couple really good YouTube channels that I'd like to probably get added to our description here that shows what happens when people are running like air ASICs and having a lot of cooled air coming across them. You'll actually burn up the chips. You'll have a lot of condensation around some of those connection points around capacitors and stuff, and you'll actually create this green kind of oxidation to it, and then it ends up just eroding it, and then the hardware fails. So in these kind of setups, especially when you're trying to put a lot of cold air in the thing, you don't want a lot of that direct cold air on the machine. You want direct cold air coming in from the bottom, have airflow pulling from the tops of the rigs or in the upper areas, blowing it up and away. You want to just move air. That's the big thing, a big maintenance thing that has been kind of lesson learned over years of mining, is it's just about moving air. So if you can keep that kind of, you know, airflow going, you're good to go, and you don't want that huge humidity. If you're doing outside stuff and you're filtering that air, you just got to be cautious of the humidity that you're putting in there, and that you're not trying to drop the temperatures too much. So if you're doing like an outside box setup and you're pulling in a lot of humid air, you don't want to just have it, even if it's recirculating a little bit of hot air and it's pulling that hot air out, just create that kind of convection system in there to where it's just not you're pushing in cold air, because you will start to corrode your equipment. So just move, even if it's hot air, just move it. You want to get the air movement. So I think I beat that one to death, but it's just kind of things that I've seen. People have sent us pictures and videos. It's not just stuff that we've experienced. This is people sending us pictures, all those like 60,000 emails that you see that I haven't read, and there's probably 200,000 emails that I have went through, you know, very quickly. People send us pictures, people send us feedback. That constant feedback loop that we get from the community helps us be able to project that information back to you guys. And that's really the moral to the story there, is that these are coming from people that said, hey, here's the thing I was trying, and here's why it failed on me. Another thing from an inspection standpoint, you want to make sure, especially if you're not like in the cleanest area, like if you have a rig like in a garage or something like that that has a lot more dust, is you want to take an inspection across all your fans, see how much dust has collected on things, especially in your power supply and your power supply filters. Now these rigs that are open air, ironically, do not, while there is dust that gets on them because they are open air, compared to like a case that actually has like a channel of air, and you have those dust filters that kind of collect everything, and you have to pull those dust filters and dust them off. These kind of have just a natural kind of flow of dust across all of them. It doesn't necessarily collect on that filter, so you got to check the surfaces. About every 6 months we come through, and this is like a real cheap, you know, this is like $100 Craftsman, just single, you know, like 0.7 horsepower. You know, there's not much to this. This actually, over time, if you could buy cans of air a lot of time, get one of these. It's a lot cheaper than a can of air. And you can get the pressure the right. I usually, you know, pump it up to about 110 PSI, and then you have, and you know, do this outside. I'm not going to spray the actual rig right now, but you have, you know, to where you can put one of those things on there, and then you just have the ability to clean off your rig. You know, just go through. I personally don't like overspinning the fans. I've watched people do that online, to where they'll sit there and just hit that fan and let it spin really fast. Don't blow a bearing out there, because you want to see how fast you can get that fan spinning. What I usually do is try to hold the fan, and I just kind of blow through, and I want the air to blow on the fan and blow it off. Don't sit there and see how fast you can get the fan going. I've seen stuff to where it's busted off the fan, it's blown off the bearings, it burns up the bearings because you're sitting there overspinning the fan, or you're spinning it the way that it wasn't designed to spin. So what I usually do is just grab the cards, kind of blow it away from you. Otherwise, you're just going to suck a lot of dust, and you don't want to do that. It is good to also have, if you can put like a dust filter over your face, because you are going to be blowing a lot of dust. So snap one of those little dust filters over your face. Blow off the cards. You don't have to remove them necessarily from the rig, but just hold your finger there and just kind of blow down, pull that air off, and then blow across the risers. And then recheck all your connections after you've pushed a lot of air, because if you're pushing a lot of PSI air on there, there's a good chance you're going to knock stuff off, including your riser if it's not being supported from the bottom. Make sure you clean the board, your CPU fan combo, and the cards. This is really just to make sure that you're not putting, one, if there's another layer of dust on a piece, you know, on the mining rig, it creates more heat. It's just like a cover on the actual heat sink. So you want to get that away from there. Additionally, it puts a different load on the actual fan, and actually burn up the bearings on the fan. There's a lot of a lot of dust on there. So you want to make sure, again, we do it about every 6 months because it's in a pretty clean environment. Sometimes you might have to do them every 3 months if it collects a lot of dust. Especially if you're pushing air on top of them, you're going to get a lot of dust on those rigs. Power supply, same thing, blow out the power supply, and then that's one of the main key maintenance features that you're going to want to do. You're taking care of the cards, you're making sure that they're good to go. You can kind of give them like a dust wipe after that. I mean, this rig was less than 6 months. This has probably been about less than 3 months actually, about 2.5 months, I think, because we got this one in November. And we've already kind of just done a clean on it. These are the GTX 1070 Ti EVGA super clocks. I think we got these originally, I don't even remember, I think like 500, 525, something like that. It was a little more. It's right when the prices started coming back up, or started going up. Now they're like going for double, which is just crazy talk right now. $1,049, I think, is what I've seen these things for, which I don't know what's going on with that. All that is just crazy talk. New supply is going to be coming, and we'll be able to get it.
Which computer do you have your Twitch set up on?
My Twitch.
So I can go and switch it. They said you should switch your game to crypto, so it shows in the crypto category.
Oh yeah, is it not showing up in the crypto category?
No.
Yeah, forgive us on the setup here. We are literally live doing this. Maybe dashboard, maybe.
Might be video manager. Game category. Crypto. There you go.
Crypto.
Not CryptoKitties.
Oh my God, there's one for CryptoKitties.
Do people actually Twitch CryptoKitties?
I mean, there's not much to Twitch. I mean, it's just essentially you go to a marketplace page and you look at your kitty. There's nothing much more about it to that. Okay, so that's essentially it from a maintenance standpoint for what we had. There might be other things that other people do, kind of just the review of the cables again, and then just making sure you have all the dust off there, and then set your frequency, just inspect your rigs and stuff. You're going to take care of the hardware. If you're ever wanting to exit the hardware, like if you've mined for 9 months and you're like, you know what, not for me, I've had some maintenance issues a lot and I just have to always touch them, or it's just I don't have time anymore, and you want to move the rigs, the cards look clean, they're well taken care of. If you manage your cards, there's a huge misconception where people take the extreme of cryptocurrency mining, and they're a misinformed group, unfortunately, that the cryptocurrency mining damages the cards. The activities that people do, sometimes trying to squeeze out the most hash, just as in gaming, if you're trying to max out your potential frame rate because you're trying to get the top benchmark, there are chances you could damage the cards. But by and large, if you're taking the GPUs, you're throwing a subtle overclock to them, and you're dropping a little less power for them to use, you're actually not impacting the card. You're not hurting the card. If you're doing a lot of undervolting and you're doing things that actually change the actual output physically of the card because now you're feeding it less juice, you could have some issues that you end up damaging the card. But if all you're doing is changing clocks, and especially starving some of that power from the card from just a power limit standpoint, you're not actually impacting the card any differently than anybody gaming. The only difference is that you're running it 24/7, where most people that play games are running it for 8, 10, 12. I mean, I've had some marathons on games, like when I was back in the day playing some MMOs, like some EVE Online. Anybody's ever been in a long fleet battle in EVE Online where it's like frame after frame after frame, and you don't want your big expensive ship to get blown up? You're on that computer for freaking 20 hours waiting to get your ship offline. That's a marathon game. It's like 20 hours. If you do a total gaming, you may game on your computer for 60 hours a week. You do your 8 hours on the normal day job, and then you game for 8 more hours and go to bed, and there's your 16, and you sleep. You're not actually hurting the cards. So if you take care of them, you air blow them, you make sure they're nice and clean, you've taken care of them for 8 to 10, 12 months, you can get a good deal on a GPU if somebody's trying to move their GPU, and it isn't damaging it. We've been mining since 2011 on GPUs. I did Bitcoin from 2011. 5970s, 5770 or 7570s. I mean, I'm talking some old school cards. Here's one that I pulled that we're gonna do in a live stream this week. I promised you guys I was gonna do kind of an older card review of what could you mine right now on current currencies of older cards, because some people can get. Here is a 7800. This is a 7850 XFX that has mined. This card actually mined Bitcoin when it could be mined. I mined Bitcoin with this for probably about, not very long, about 3 months, because this is right at the age of when the jalapenos were coming out and the ASICs were coming out for it. A lot of the Bitcoin mining was done on 5970s and 60. This guy right here. I try to keep a couple of the older cards just because I knew I would come back to it one day and people saying, "Oh, this ruins it." This one mined longer than this one. This is a 6970, an old AMD Asus this wasn't double dissipation. This was the, I can't even remember which one this one was. This is the Asus. This is a 2 gigabyte card. This one mined more Bitcoin than this one actually. But when you could mine it, and then this one went on to mine Feathercoin and a whole bunch of other currencies for years. And I can still plug that card in and still mine perfectly fine and play games. I'm not going to play maybe some old DirectX 9 games, but if you take care of them and you don't do crazy overclock, you don't do a lot of heavy modification on them, they're fine. They run. You can find a good deal on them if you're a gamer, from people that take care of cryptocurrency.
We had a super chat from James. He was asking if you had tried the Hive OS.
I have not tried Hive OS. I've seen some people. I think Son of Tech did a Hive OS review on it. We will take a look at it. I owe a couple different OSs some homage. I have to spend some time and do it. We're going to do a Hive OS, a new updated. A lot of people have been asking us to redo an update, especially when it comes to overclocking and maintenance on ETH OS. I got Eve on the mind. ETH OS and on Pimp. We still have. I own a copy of Pimp. We just never. I went out and bought one about 4 months ago, and we just never did anything. So maybe doing an overview of different OSs. We could do our version of that. But Son of Tech did one recently. You guys can go check his channel out and do that. That's one great thing about having Vosk and I think it's Voscoin, Son of Tech, iMineBlocks, all these other crypto channels that are out there kind of hedging each other, from covering different subjects to allow people some exposure to different options here. That's why we're bringing you today here in a minute. We'll get into, I'll show you guys this Ravencoin that's coming out. It's a different algorithm. That's why we're kind of doing it. It's and kind of give you guys exposure to that and kind of some of the troubleshooting stuff that we've done with that if you choose to mine that particular currency and stuff like that. So everybody kind of helps each other.
This is from Twitch. Would you wear that if I bought it?
From Twitch?
Yeah, they said you need a Crypto Kitties t-shirt. It's not pink though. It's not pink.
I'll wear it.
It'd be hilarious.
I'll totally wear that. But yeah, so back to the cards. So these, I want to do the review. We're going to do that review with these this week. I'm going to put them in there. I'm getting a couple more. I have some R9. Actually, I have some R9 390, 290 X's and 280 X's still to this day mining right now. So we're going to pull some of those back and do a proper review on what you can mine with some of these older cards. Now granted, you're going to use a lot of power. I mean, that's like a metric crap ton of power right now compared. So if you have a better deal on power, it's probably best to use those. But part of it isn't throwing the beans at it, meaning throw like an algorithm that's going to just juice them all the way up. You want to mine stuff like Crypto Night, some of the other currencies out there that don't use a lot of power to make them most efficient, because they actually have pretty decent outputs on those type of currencies. When you're mining and pulling the network. Then we got the 370 there. I'm gonna get this out of my way. I'm gonna trip on this piece here. So. Because you're not.
I pushed the wrong button. It's all good.
On Twitch. So now back to now back to this. So let's see here. I did the maintenance pieces that we've done and what you should do. Make sure you're air blowing your rigs out. The troubleshooting stuff that we've went through, and that we'll flip over to the screen here in a second for that kind of stuff. But let's take a look real quick before we get into that, and I'll show you guys this kind of switch gears here and go over to this Ravencoin piece that we're talking about. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is Ravencoin? Where'd this come from? So I was at the North American Bitcoin Conference last week. Was it last week? I'm mixing all my days up.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I was last week. Miami Beach does things to you that is incomprehensible. So I started to forget things.
That's the worst.
It is the worst. So good times. Anybody that's been following our Twitter feed saw how fun that was. So so Ravencoin, this was actually shown, the folks that were involved in that, some MIT from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, some folks kind of came up with this one. Have been doing an open source project on this. Again, no pre-mine, fair start, 21 billion potential coins, our total coins. It's kind of following Bitcoin, where it's going to be doing halvings after specific blocks. Right now it's 5,000 every 1 minute, and so they factored it up. So if you look at it, there's 5,000 every 1 minute. So versus 50 coins like Bitcoin did to every 10 minutes, they just factored up the total amount of coins, and they brought the time down by a 10x. So it's going to have the same way Bitcoin does. It'll go to 2,500. It'll go to 1250 after so long, and essentially that's about it, I believe. I mean, that, and it's using a different type of algorithm that is very ASIC resistant because it's using 16 different algorithms.
Oh, click the live chat.
The live chat. Oh.
I like being on this side because then I get to make him go do errands.
Yeah, there you go.
Because you're closer.
Hey, no, that's all good. So,
can you mine Raven on a CPU?
Absolutely, you can mine Raven on a CPU, and actually right now the way this algorithm works is it mines both with the CPU and your GPUs. So right now your GPU, so like right now you can see it running. I'm running 2 instances because this is an 8 card rig. So, and I'll show you the configuration that I had to do. But if we look at the performance, this particular rig is, we put a higher end CPU in here just because I wanted to see, we were having some issues when we were trying to actually go with the 8 cards. This thing would just crash when it was running 8 cards. Like, it wasn't compatible with it. So we split it into 2 different actual instances here, and if I come into this, here's where we got, and actually I'm running 6. So here, so if we come in here and I look at this, the CC miner, we'll put all the links to this in the description, but this CC miner is a build that's right now, it's 2241, and if we look inside of this, you guys can see essentially there's the algorithm, it's X16R. There's only a few pools out there right now. Supernova has like 90% of it from a hash power standpoint. We're going to look to see if maybe Hodl or somebody can do a pool. I think they're looking into it right now. But BBT test, that's my worker name. So that's just a basic account test that we use for testing things on Supernova. This particular one's BBT worker, and we got the intensity level. The default is 19. I saw that when we were running higher, it was having issues. Now we're doing some testing, but bottom line, when we add the other GPUs here, like I'm only using 6 of the 8 here because it likes to pair up one thread of the CPU to one GPU. So when we were running 8 GPUs in here, we were getting a lot of random crashes. But when I dropped it to 3 card instant and a 3 card instant, it paired up each of those GPUs. So like right now, it's running a CPU cycle 1-to-1 with each GPU. So look at that, it's maxed out
What are you
all
buying?
6 cores. Huh?
What coin are you buying?
This is Ravencoin, RVN. So you can see right now as it's doing the CPU cycle, because part of this algorithm, there's 16 different algorithms. A couple of them are very, very CPU heavy. So it offsets the thread over to the CPU, and right now it's 1-to-1 with the GPU. So when we were running all 8 cards, it was crashing because it didn't essentially have a thread to hand over the work to. The GPU just matches up with that. So you can see I'm running it also on our 1950 Threadripper build, which has a single Titan V in it, and you'll see it just thread out one of these CPU cores to that Titan V. I went to another machine that had 2 GPUs in it, 2 1080 Ti's, one of our gaming rigs, and it was using 2 cores also there. So this is some of the iterative testing that we've been doing. So in this kind of configuration, I'm going to be testing it with an i7, which has 8 threads that it could have the 8 cards going to. And if it ends up being stable with the 8 cards, there's a high chance that it's able to do that. The next thing I want to test also is the hyperthread performance and the virtualization. As you can see here, I have virtualization disabled. The machine behind me has a 12 card rig, this 12 card 1060 rig. I haven't done a long test with it yet, but one of the things I've done is I enabled virtualization on the BIOS on the motherboard, and then I try to run this across 2 6-card threads, and that's only got an i3 7100 in it, which only has 4 actual cores. But with virtualization turned on, it's looking like it's stable across 6 cards and 6 cards. So I think that's the kind of piece there, is that it needs to have virtualization turned on, and it needs to have it pairs up the cords, the cores with the thread. So it's a unique algorithm. I like testing it. What's up?
Can you set a flag to use more CPU threads?
So right now there isn't anything in there to create more threads that you want to use. I was looking at that with regards to the Threadripper to see if I could throw all 32 threads there, but we were still got to do some more testing. I encourage you guys to do some more testing with it. Again, it's a very young coin. It came out the 3rd of January. I don't know if there's going to be tons of profit to be made from it and any of that kind of stuff. I like the science side of it. It's a new algorithm. It came from the folks over in MIT, and it's an interesting approach at the way it does the proof of work as it slips through all those different algorithms as part of its proof of work cycle. So you'll see some swings in the power usage. Like right now we're using 649 watts of power. This thing will swing up to about using 1,000 watts on this whole thing. This has got a 1300 G2 power supply in it. And it'll go all the way down to like 200 watts of usage because it's on the algorithm that's just using the CPU for. So it's one of those things that once an AMD miner comes out for it, there's going to be things that the NVIDIA is going to be good at, because certain parts of that algorithm is using stuff that NVIDIA's core technology with CUDA is good at, but then it's using things that its technology isn't good at, where AMD will start to be strong on it. I think it's a pretty cool algorithm to test out. Where's the cycle when it comes up through the kind of Monte Carlo, curve of, it's real good on these 4 algorithms with NVIDIA, but it's real good on these other 6 with, AMD, and then the rest is all CPU dependent. So it's an interesting way to approach it. I would ask to, and here, you guys can see it right here. It just dropped some of the threads. You see now it's switching over to, let me go back over to this. You can see here where it's now to the point of using the GPUs at 100%, and you can see it dropped the thread off of the CPU because it got done with that part of the cycle. So you can see those drop, and now it's sitting there cooking through. Now it's accepting, and now it's going to sit there and spam for a second all the mega hash that the cards are doing. So for each card, it's about 24 mega hash on these 1070 Ti's as it goes through each of the GPUs. So interesting, different type of algorithm. This is the kind of stuff that I like from the, just what's going on. You can see on this thread over here, it's not fully done with the CPU piece. So those 3 are still kind of chewing on that. these three are assigned to the other three down here. So you can see that one-to-one tie to the GPU and to the CPU core. So that's it. That's all I wanted to just kind of show with Ravencoin. There are.
They're saying they can't find that on, what is it, Coinbase or Coin something?
Well, it's not on Coinbase.
No, that's not what I meant.
So just here, open up a tab.
No.
It's on Bitcoin.talk. Here, just open a tab. I'm gonna have you paste in that link to it.
Okay.
And then just do Ravencoin space Bitcoin talk. All again. That one. So click that link and then just copy that into the. So we're pasting you guys the actual source to the actual Bitcoin talk, so you can read the white paper, you can do all that kind of stuff. Additionally, we'll make a post underneath the description of this to where you guys can download the miner that we're using, and I'll post the configuration that we have in there.
You can set threads.
Oh yeah, and the new you can set threads, number of fallback threads of equals X. So in 2241 probably, I think that was one of the feature ads that they added in there. But the yeah, the virtualization. You use all 12 threads on one GPU. Yeah, we can look at that. I think I did see that on the actual posting of what the latest release of that miner was, as to where you could set the threads, and that'll be a good test with our 1950X Threadripper as we start to post some of that stuff. But we'll post out what we're using for it to you guys. Again, it's just, you can run the Raven.qt. You have to download the 4 different executables if you're trying to run the local wallet. You can hit hide when it first comes up to start trying to sync the wallet, and you can go under the top, under file. You can hit new address, or receiving addresses, create a new one, call it a pool, and then in there you can right click and copy that address, put that into your Supernova configuration, and then start mining. So that's where you can kind of get your wallet. It's a localized wallet to a wallet.dat file, which is on a local computer. That's the one we're using, but we'll walk you guys kind of through that if you want to do it. Again, this is what you guys choose to do with your cycles. I like testing out new algorithms and trying to understand what they're doing, how to get them, make suggestions to some of the developers, and or look at the code ourselves to see, is it using this driver in this particular way and how the algorithm works. So this is us just kind of dorking out with a few machines, and I got a few of the gaming machines on it. Again, it's only for NVIDIA and CPUs right now, no AMD stuff. So,
someone had asked earlier, can you set Kart or fans individually per card, or does it have to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it just depends on if you're using Windows. It's kind of a loaded question. So, yes, you can go individual on each fan. If you're using Afterburner in Windows, you can identify each different, different card that you want to set fans. You can also put your fan speeds as a whole across the entire rig in something like Simple Mining OS, where you're just going in there and configuring the entire, which fan speed you want. You can also put in each of you can create. I've seen people go as far as creating separate bash files for each card. Doing the selector, if you're using CC Miner, it's a /D space the actual card number. Then you can set different settings that way, and then just run different batch files for each card individually and run them all separately to individually control it. There's a whole range of things. It's kind of like copy and paste. It's like somebody asked me a question like, how do I copy and paste? I'm like, you can right click and copy. You can hit Control C and copy. There's various ways to get about it, and it's one of those kind of questions like, which way is the right way? It's like, what are you trying to accomplish?
They say Afterburner only allows adjusting as a group.
Afterburner adjusting as a group. I think I've done it individually. If you unlink them, if you unlink Afterburner, so you hit the unlink, and then you can go to each one.
What about Bitcoin Z?
Don't know much about Bitcoin Z. The next one that I'm going to be researching is the Bitcoin Private, which I believe is the Z Classic fork which supposedly just got done. I don't get too caught up in the hype piece of it. Now, obviously, people got a nice little pump lift when it came to Z Classic, considering it was like $1.90 at the beginning of December-ish, and now it's like 140 or whatever it is right now. But I like it once it's live, and then I can touch and feel it. I'm not going to get caught up in the hype zone of those kind of things. I'm too mechanical and too logical in the way I deal with things. It's too good to believe true, all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, if you follow that kind of mindset, there's chances that you're never gonna get that crazy lift in price and stuff like that. It's just the way, it's a personal thing, right? So I want to touch it, feel it, see how it works, that kind of stuff. So I don't get so caught up in all the hype until I can actually get in there and test it and see how it is and all that kind of stuff personally. There's a lot of other channels out there, though, that's your channel for that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, don't take it as like I'm saying something wrong with it. That's cool. But
if someone's wanting to build a rig for about 2K, is it too late to the game to be profitable?
For 2K, well, it depends if you can get graphic cards. It all comes down to graphics cards, prices, all that kind of stuff. Mining is mining is mining. Mining has been the same way since 2011. So if you got in, there's different times that are good times to get in. But if you get in and you go long on it, you mine for 3, 4, 8, 10, 12 months, and then you've earned currency, and then you hold that currency for another 3 years. The past history has shown that that's always been a good thing. It doesn't matter, and that it's continuing to go up. I think the space in general, regardless of mining, is going to all grow. So with that, the mining and the proof of work coins that we contribute, we provide services for, rewards us in tokens. Those tokens, as more and more people get into the industry, look to diversify their incomes or their money into these different currencies. It's agnostic to mining, right? They don't care. They just look at currency, and they look at maybe some of the feature sets they're going to use with it. That's good for miners in general too. So what I tell for anybody is, if you have $2,000 that you can spend, you probably want to hold initially because the prices are too crazy. $2,000 used to be able to buy you almost an entire rig. You can get a whole rig of 1050 Ti's, an 8-card rig for almost $2,000, right? Like everything, like cards, motherboard, power supply. If you bought a rig where you're spending $120, $150 on a rig, all $2,000 would have got you into the space. Now you're not so much. $2,000 also would have got you into a nicer card, 4-card rig, right? You get $350, $400 per card. For those, power supply, case, all that kind of stuff, you would have a pretty decent 4-card and maybe even a 5-card rig. Right now, I mean, one of these EVGA GTX 1070 Ti's, I mean, what are these things selling for? Like $1,000 right now? That's crazy talk. So we need the supply to come in, and then it needs to sit there at those crazy prices. And then the way the mechanics work in the back end is it is a supply-demand market, but it's also a margin markup market for the businesses. So they need to sit there. We need people not buying cards at those kind of prices is what it comes down to. That's price gouging. If this was a necessity, they would have the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission on. They would have folks on their butts trying to say you're gouging consumers, right? That kind of activity, if you have a 3x increase, I mean, that's borderline Better Business Bureau complaints, right? That's not the way the game should work. And people can set their whatever prices they want, but then there's just, there's fair market chance too, right? So if something's really hot and it's sold out, when I go to a store and there's a new, let's say a beer that Miss BBT wants, right? Like a Red's Apple or any of these kind of things. She's like, hey, there's a new lime version. And I go to the store and they're out. I'm like, oh crap. And I go to another store and they're out, right? I'm going to raise hell and say, you guys, your supply chain sucks. You guys don't have anything. But the demand's very high right now. But if I went back into that store and they're like $28.50 for that one can, You know, they're going to get a like, yeah, right, bro. And then I'm going to walk out and this stuff's going to sit there and expire. Now, that's unfortunate because that's just perishable. This stuff isn't, but it's one of those things that if we're buying it, they're going to continue to sell at that price. So I would tell everybody just to hold off, let the supply come in, and then it's a math problem. It's two equations, price and time. So if stuff sits there on the shelves at those prices, they're going to drop the prices. It's just the way it works. And if more inventory comes in, they're going to drop more and more in the price because they got to make money too. They're in a business. So right now, if you have $2,000, hold. If you want to invest in some currency, right now the prices are not all-time highs. So there maybe I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just telling you what I look at. I've always told people if you're close to all-time highs and you need to exercise some funds, nobody's ever going to wrong you or tell you you're crazy or stupid if you need to move money and you're at all-time highs. So in late December, when people are like, "Oh my God, there's FOMO," and you have all these people trying to buy in, and you're sitting there like, "Well, I could sell." Your decision making shouldn't need to be any further that if you need to exercise those funds for whatever reason, pay a bill, pay a college loan off, all that kind of stuff, and you're near all-time highs, you're always right. You're never wrong ever exercising your money. But right now, if you were trying to sell because you're like, crap, I totally should have sold at Christmas, and now it's low, this is a good buying opportunity because it's still low. But as it starts to go back up to all-time highs again, and maybe bust through all-time highs, you could be at that point of taking some profit, taking some, paying off something. So right now it's a good buying opportunity. So that $2,000 may be partially applied to put 1,000 into, hedge it. Put 1,000 right now into some coins. Maybe when the prices come down on graphics cards, you would have made a bump. You could lose also some too. But I'm just saying it's not at all-time highs right now. So you might get that lift with that money right now versus buying your equipment at an overpriced thing. Because right now, graphics cards are at an all-time high. So, just saying.
We missed some super chats.
All right.
Have you checked out Bulwark?
I have. We did on one of the previous live streams. We did look at Bulwark. I was looking and reviewing at the changes to the multi-miner. I've consumed some of those changes that people put onto the GitHub. I got a few more changes to add in there, and we're going to be adding Bulwark into that. The NIST 5, I believe, is the algorithm that uses. We will be adding a couple options for that. There's a few other currencies that we're going to be adding too. I was actually kind of waiting to see if that AMD release for Ravencoin would come out from a miner for Ravencoin for the AMD cards would come out, and then we would add that in there. Additionally, giving Hodl some time to review the pool and see if we can get a few more other pools out there than Supernova, because Supernova right now has about 97% of the entire network. So we'll probably add there's two other pools out there for Raven. If Hodl doesn't do it, I'm going to be pulling those two in as options on there to help spread some of that hash power out. So and then we'll have Bulwark on there too.
What are you mining on your Vegas?
Right now, Vegas, we're doing ETN.
And I think there was more, but I can't go back. You have to go back to the logged in as you, not as me.
Oh, the other super chats?
Yep. I know there was a couple other ones I missed.
Yeah, we like making sure
switching back and forth. I got problems.
Yeah.
Too slow.
No problem. We'll go live on there. So, is there any other questions I can answer while I'm looking at this?
For the 1080 Ti, best. Oh, that's not it. Building his first rig with Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1080 GI Gaming 8GB. 6 of them. How do I know how much power I need for it?
You're going to have to repeat that one more time. So the other one was somebody was asking me about Intense Coin. Never heard of it. So I have no real opinions on it. I've never heard of Intense Coin.
Okay. So 6 1080 GTX 1080 8 gigs. How much power?
6 GTX 1080s. It depends what you're mining. So if you're doing like library, or if you're gonna do like Zcash, Zclassic, all that kind of stuff, 6 of them, you could get by with the 1300 G2. And still have some overhead in the room. Power supplies are kind of pricey right now, and they're kind of out. So you can get by with a pair of 850s and have more than enough overhead. And you're really going to need that just from a 8-pin standpoint. Especially if it's a dual 8-pin, you're definitely going to need 2 850 P2s to have enough. Or you could go with a larger, 1200 to 1600 watt server power supply with the right enough 8 pins.
Thoughts on Shapeshifter to change your altcoins?
I use Shapeshift all the time. I love Shapeshift with a passion. I mean, I buy everything with Shapeshift that I can. It's right there on my Jax wallet. It's great. And I did get your guys' feedback on that. You guys want to see if you haven't watched our previous video, and you can skip through it on the Robinhood one, where I have it hooked up directly to the phone and kind of going through that tutorial. If you guys like that kind of video, I will do one of Jax wallet, how you kind of Shapeshift, how you back up your keys, all that kind of stuff with something like that. I think that's a good, valuable video. Actually, you can see it in clarity. We'll download a fresh new wallet on a new phone, and you guys will get to see all that stuff. And we'll play with some currency there, see how fast it shows up, that kind of stuff. Cool. So let's
mouse pads.
Mouse pads. Oh yeah, let's do some mouse pads. Why not? So what I need is from the live chat. Go to participants, and what we need to do is we need to highlight all those folks, everybody in there. So click the first one. Yep, just grab the first one and drag down. Yep, there you go. Copy.
Okay.
Copy that, and then paste it into a. Open up a notepad. Just notepad. Just type notepad. No, not those. Notepad. And then we're going to take the folks out of Twitch.
Then Twitch. And I did that earlier over here. Viewer list.
Yep. And then you should be able just to grab those viewers down there, and we're going to pull them all into the notepad, and then we're going to use a random checker. And the way this is going to work, guys, is we're going to have a randomizer come up, put up some words on who is being selected there. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes. If you're in YouTube right now and you have a Twitch, this is a way for you to kind of double entry it.
I just copied it. You're going to make me do it again?
We'll do 2 this way, and then you can do it again. So, and then we'll do 3 the other way. So this gives people time to kind of get a double entry. And it's a roundabout way for me to get you onto Twitch. So you guys will have time. I'm going to do 2 this way. We're going to do the random name picker. Just new tab. Just type in random name picker.
Don't you want to?
I don't have your list.
So they can see. Oh.
And what I can do.
Oh, you're going to use the little camera?
No, I can do this, and I can plug it into your computer when you come up with the random name picker.
Which one? This one?
Yep. And then we're going to pull this off. We're all about transparency, boys and girls.
I think it's got our names in there. If that comes up, that'd be funny.
If that comes up, we just re-ran
I
it.
know. Oh, what did you just say?
So,
oh no, can they see me being horrible at the internet?
Yes, they can see you being horrible at the internet.
Okay. Ready?
Hold on. No, because it blanked out for a second. There we go. Let me,
I'm just making sure everybody's still good. Let's go back. So that I copied up.
You did.
Okay.
Random.
Ready?
All right, Mathis Jacob is first. Hold on, let me write this down. Jacob. The first one. Do one more.
Okay, I'm going back. I'm just checking.
And then just do it again.
J Bonnie Light. JYBONEELITE.
L-I-T-E. Okay, so those are the two names that I need. So clear that list off the random thing. We're gonna pull this back off.
It's like the mirror. It goes repetitively forever.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Welcome to the YouTubes.
Ah, you're breaking me again.
I'm gonna plug this back in. Close this off.
Alright, so has everyone from YouTube had the chance to go over to Twitch and join that chat?
We'll give it a couple more minutes. So we got those two. So what the way you guys will do this is, I don't care where you're at in the world. This is everybody. You can be everywhere. Everywhere besides probably Axis of Evil. Is that even a thing anymore? That was so stupid.
Don't even say that.
So no,
Show them the mouse pad that they won. Everybody's like, what?
I don't care where you guys are in the world. We'll ship this to you. Which one? This one?
Oh, you got it. Okay. Okay.
So we will ship this to you. So the way it is if you were the two, we're gonna do 3 more. You email us at bitsbetrippin@gmail.com. You put in there your name that you're on there and the address that you are. Now, obviously, what we're going to have to do is we'll reach back to you and have you verify that you are that person from the login. So, I'll reach out and tell you guys how you can verify that you're that individual. But reach out to us with that name.
Oh, it's J Mona Elite, not J Bonnie Light.
J Mona.
That's funny.
That's Miss BBT for you. No, I'd be the worst.
I know, right?
And we will work with your address and we will ship it to you. I don't care where you're at. So we'll do a couple more here in a minute. Everybody kind of getting in there. What are we up to in there now? 38. So we'll give some people some more time. What we're going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and shut this one down. I wanted to kind of move some stuff around here. And we'll pull over the R9 390.
Right.
I'll show you guys kind of what we're doing here. You guys have already seen this one. We'll do a better video with the 1070 Ti's if you want. I'm shutting these two things down here. I'm going to shut this one down all the way. Shut down. These things actually haven't even had the air blown off of them yet. We're cleaning these up. And what we're going to do is, there's some people have been asking about having an opportunity to pick up some mining rigs. So there'll be a few of these that we'll probably end up putting up on something like eBay or something, and we'll put them at regular prices.
Oh, they're going to be on eBay, not on...
Yeah, I'm not going to put them on BitsBeTrippin.
The website's been weird lately.
The website's been jacked up. And we'll put them up on eBay. We'll put them up at normal prices, not crazy prices. And if somebody is crazy enough to go nuts with it, then I can't help that. But it needs to be from a... Because what'll happen is, if I put them up on BitsBeTrippin if I put them up at BitsBeTrippin right now, the way everything is, somebody's going to come in there and they're going to immediately snipe it, and then nobody's going to have an option at it. So,
what do you mean?
Well, if I put them up there, and I put them up there for, $4,500, which is roughly cost on something like that.
Oh, you're talking about the rigs.
The rigs.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the mouse pads.
No, we'll put the mouse pads on. We bought 50 of them just to try, guys, to see if you guys like them. I wanted to give some of them away. I'm going to send some to the popular YouTubers too. And
do you have any GTX 1050 2 gig rigs mining?
GTX 1050 2 gigs. I do not. I'm going to pull over this I'm still waiting for one more power supply to come in for it. But just to show people kind of what this thing's doing with 3 cards. So this is going to be just kind of an... This is a 750 watt thermal take power supply. I got 3 cards here waiting for a power supply to go right here. We ordered another 750, so this will have a pair of 750s in it running on, and then it has a slot for one more R9 390X or 380. These are 380s. And right now I'm doing Kryptonite with them because it doesn't use that much power. And I'll just show you guys kind of what this does. A lot of people have been asking me. I've had a couple questions with the 390s, or the 380s rather. I keep saying 390 because I got 390 on the brain right now. Plug this guy in. We got a H81 Pro BTC. So this is an H81 was the original OG 6-card mining board. We're talking circa July or January, February of 2014. That's how old this board is. So, like a boss, let's move this over here. We got this on Simple Mining, and this has just got the 3 wind force. These are 380. These ones are the 380s or the 380Xs. Revision 1, 380. Next. Yeah, these are 380s. RX 380s. R9 380s, and these are the RXs. Jesus. Are the R9 380Xs. Xs, non-Xs. These were actually, I had a couple in non-mining rigs. They were actually just gaming rigs. They were for kids to do like Minecraft and stuff on.
Why is there a mouse?
Because this is Linux.
Oh.
This is what, if you have an R9, I don't know why it's blanking.
Is it profitable to mine with 12 GTX 1052 gigs?
Yes.
What would you mine?
Probably Zcash or Z Classic.
Your Twitch has grown by 50 followers.
Yay! Totally worth it for free mouse pads. Alright, so you guys can kind of see here on Kryptonite, we're getting just, and these are not really modified. We can take these up to almost 600 hash a piece if I overclock the clocks on them. But right now, just plugged in, fresh build of R9, or the R9 Simple Mining build. 3 cards, 1600 hashes. You could do ETN with these. And your power usage right now on these older cards for 3 of them, plus system, is right there. So close up. 470 watts. So you're looking at about 800 watts, 800 and some change for a 6-card R9 380. So you're looking at about 3,200 hashes. Now that's a lot of power. So people are like, oh my god, an RX Vega and blah blah blah. I get it. An RX Vega is going to be a couple hundred power, 170 watts for 2,000 hashes. I get it. We know this. But if you have no option on cards right now and you have a mining rig, this is an option. For 3,200 hashes, 30 close to 3,400 if you overclock and do some undervolting, and you'll be right about 800 watts of power. So you will be spending about 3 times the power cost. That is a fact for the same hashes, but you can get these cards a lot cheaper than an RX Vega right now. So R9, I'm just trying to give you guys an example of what there is out there and kind of just out of the box performance. So about 1,600 hashes right now for 3 of them. If you can get them for a good discount, 150 bucks or so. I don't know what the RX R9 390s are going for right now, or 380s. Do a completed auction on there, but this is the simple mining build that actually throws up the Ubuntu. He didn't strip out the Ubuntu OS and kind of what you got going on there. Saw a super chat come up.
There it is. What's your best budget rig you currently have now?
The best budget rig is probably we had a 13 card 1080 Ti, a 13 card 1050 Ti rig, which we got the 1050 Ti's at the time for $132 a piece. So for what their output was, at $132, I think it was like 227 hash a card on the souls. It ended up being a really cheap rig. I mean, for all of those cards with taxes, motherboard, case, and everything was just under, or just over $2,000 for 13 cards. Because a motherboard and the power supply that we had to use, that was the cheapest, because you're essentially looking at about a 20, I think it was 2880s with that 2,880 soul, so almost 3,000 soul rig for $2,000. You can't find them though right now for 132 bucks, unfortunately.
So now what?
So yeah, what we could do now is, I mean, we went through the maintenance tips. Troubleshooting is what I was going to get into next. I think I have a rig here.
But it is 415.
Oh, what we got? Well, we can talk through some of the different particular issues. We'll let that one run here for a second. So we come back to here. So some of the common troubleshooting stuff, and I told people that I would talk through some of the issues. So one of the most common ones I keep seeing come up on Facebook group, people tweeting us, is one that has to do when Claymore starts just dumping out saying you have a GPU fell ID, comes up with saying that maybe the overclock's too high, and it just starts scrolling red. And there's a few different things that I kind of call it the toolkit of testing. So one of the very first things that I do that saves some of the best time is, as I read, sometimes when you have the swap file itself, when you add the virtual memory, sometimes that file gets corrupt. At least we've seen from this. And what I say is, while it doesn't necessarily drop out saying it is corrupt, going in and just turning that off, going back to letting the machine predicate the actual swap file size, the virtual memory. So you go back into the virtual memory settings, you go in there to say let Windows handle it, hit apply, restart the computer. That next restart's going to take a little bit because it's going to flush out that big 20 gig plus file that you actually had put in there. It's going to bring it back down to about 1.3 gig. You let it come all the way up. You can let it start to try to mine for a second. It may or may not give you an error because it depends what you're mining, because some things need that large swap file, especially if you have a lot of cards, like a 12 card rig or something like that in Windows. But go ahead and let it try to start to mine for it again, see if that fixes it. Now you're going to be going back and you're going to be resetting that, but at least you can sit there and see, one, does it initially fix it? Let it try to mine for a second, shut the miner back down, go back in and reset your swap file back up to that 20 gig to 40 gig file size again. That'll recreate that file, do another reboot, and then see if it holds. I have fixed many rigs just by resetting that virtual memory file, and it just something happens to where it just either can't read the file, or it's corrupt, or then it tries to write to it. Something happens there that's jacking that up. So that's one step. If it doesn't get fixed that way, then I go to kind of step 2. Step 2 is looking at a driver issue, something that got corrupt with the driver, something that's just off, and it either corrupted something when it was in memory, and the driver just isn't loaded any right. Now you can reload the DLLs, but I find it a lot faster and easier if you just do a true DDU, which is the device driver uninstall, and just re-go back through it. If you have an AMD set of cards, that sucks because you have to go back in and either use the blockchain driver, or you have to go back in and reset up compute if you're using Windows. Most of these issues, by the way, that I'm talking about is happening in Windows. It's not necessarily like in Claymore or something having an issue in like Simple Mining OS. And a lot of that has to do because the OS environment's a lot different, and the way it handles memory management and the driver control and all that kind of stuff's a lot more segmented, and it doesn't have other existential effects that can happen in Windows that corrupt things. So if you go back in and you do a proper DDU, which means if you are rebooting you download device driver uninstaller, hold that left shift key on your keyboard and do a restart. When you do a restart holding that left shift key, it gives you a new prompt that you can get into and do advanced settings and come back in safe mode. You're doing the troubleshooting pieces there to restart the machine. You come back in and under safe mode in Windows, and then you run the device driver uninstaller because it wants to unload everything in Windows. It doesn't want any exclusive rights holding up that driver or having a pin, to where it's being used and it doesn't properly remove it. That's why it wants you to do it in safe mode, because safe mode comes up with the generalized drivers that do not load any of the advanced features of any driver set that you're running. It's running a basic Windows approved VGA adapter driver, so you don't have any of those kind of hooks or connections live to where it won't uninstall only a partial. So this allows the device driver to uninstall properly, pull all those drivers, all those registry settings back off, restart the computer, reload the driver set, and I do this in a 2-phase approach on the drivers. I download the driver set that I'm going to use. Right now, currently, the main go-to driver from the AMD side is I'm using the November versions of the drivers. I think it's 17.11.1. Downloading that driver, loading it in there. It seems to be the one that I'm having the most confidence in when it comes to using the compute mode on the drivers if I'm not using the blockchain version of it. So I put that one back on if I'm using AMD cards. But when I download that and extract it, I'm actually, when it comes back up, the way device driver uninstaller sets those cards up, it sets them all up in a mode to where they're not going to try to automatically install. It'll just have them as regular device drivers, or regular device adapters. I right click on that, I hit update driver, I point it to that folder that I just unzipped for the particular folder, file. Now this could be for NVIDIA and AMD. So when you download those drivers and you go to launch those, once it's done unzipping and unpacking, it usually does it under the C drive under NVIDIA or AMD. Where it unzips those at is that location to that source files. I stop that wizard, I don't let it go through it. I cancel it, I go back in there, I apply the driver update to it. So I point in, say update driver, I point it to that folder. Now what that does is it does what they call a light install mode. So essentially it just uses the driver, it doesn't load all the catalysts and all the other big stuff. Yeah, I'll look at that in a second. Then you can validate and test to make sure everything's working once it loads all those drivers. Now, if you need the advanced features of those driver sets, meaning like if you need to get into the AMD one where you have to go in and change the compute mode, after everything's installed, you can actually run that installer after all the drivers are set up, and then essentially it's going to skip over the driver portion and just load the rest of the software for you. So you can come back in there and do that a second time. Now, all of that time, start to finish, is about a 30-minute process on most machines that have let's say a Celeron 3930 or any of the normal processors, i3 7100, something like that. So it's about a 30-minute process, so be prepared for that. And it's not including or limited to the fact that if your machine has been online for a while and then it fails and you go through all this, that in the midst of that it's going to want to try to do a Windows update and all that. So just be prepared. That's probably going to take you a cool minute to do those kind of things. Additionally, when part of the thing I left out on the maintenance stuff, I highly recommend people going through at least every 3 months, and if you have your Windows updates, if you're using Windows, to go through and do your Windows updates. Take a day out, do your Windows update, make sure it's up to date all the way. Just because they plug holes, 0 days, all these things that come out over a period of time. You have a set of security updates that come out with those updates, along with sometimes feature upgrades. Right? Feature upgrade is an example of something like being able to use 12 GPUs on your mining rig now in Windows, where you used to be only limited at 8. Those kind of things are cool feature updates that come out with some of those releases. Updates suck, and I agree. It sucks when Microsoft or somebody just drops a random one on there and then shit doesn't work. That happens all the time on my XSplit. They're like, hey, we fixed all kinds of shit, and then I go to start a live stream and the shit don't work. That sucks. But those updates plug very serious security holes, right? So things that you and I and most people don't even know. It's the stuff that's in the background, and they just say, hey, it's a security update. You want to use that. You have, like I'd call the tinfoil hat. People are like, oh, they're just trying to, do something bad. By and large, folks, it's people that have reported things. You have a security issue here. They figure out and fix it, and they don't necessarily announce, hey, by the way, that door's open all the time, right? So they just come in and fix it. It is good, especially with botnets and all these things trying to take your hash power to close some of those holes. If you're using a very susceptible operating system such as Windows, that's susceptible to a lot of attack vectors. So you want to make sure that you're at least every 3 months doing your updates on your mining rigs. Keep your stuff safe and keep your hashes going to you.
Okay, so look what Lewis said about his rig, and he was asking if that is a good margin for profit.
I built a 12 car, 1050, 2 gig, 133, a whole rig, 2100. I mean, so 2100, you're getting 133 souls per, so you're getting about 70 souls less than a TI with it's an overclock. I mean, you're missing about 70 hashes compared to like a TI with overclocks. So I mean, it's just, and you're at TI prices. I mean, essentially you're adding about 2.5 months onto your process and ROI at current prices. I don't let the current prices hold me down. I don't let the current prices scare me in any of that. I have beliefs myself in that this space is going to grow exponentially. So the fact that you have hash power, the fact that you're contributing and you're getting a token for that contribution, even at a little incremental amount right now, more than what you would have if you had a TI, you're just looking at about 2.5 months at current prices of just your ROI. But the fact is that you're in, it's still a pretty good return over a long period of time. So a longer period of time. It's just a math problem at the end of the day. So that looks like about 150 is what he ended up putting those in for. We have another one that came in. Will this give me a mouse pad? You guys rock, Richard Porter. Yes, Richard Porter. Of course, that will get you a mouse pad. Send me a link, buddy. And we're gonna put them up there a lot less than that on. That might actually get. We actually have some coffee cups coming in too, so that might get Richard a coffee cup
lanyard.
Too. And a lanyard. Yeah, we do have some lanyards, don't we?
They're up by the front.
Yeah, we have a Bitsby Trippin' lanyard. So Richard Porter, you're gonna get a little gift pack. You're awesome. Of course, it's gonna get you a mouse pad. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of those little. We're getting some trinkets and stuff. There's people have been asking us about, having some options there. From some stuff. Share found GPU 2. Oh, that's the GPU. That's the dev mining. I just looked over and saw a different color on the feeds there. So let's do it and do the other. Let's do the other 3 mouse pads. So you want to pull those over, and I'll let you get it all set up and then we'll switch the video source. So we're gonna do the 3 other mouse pads, guys, for you. Before we wrap up here, we'll try to do on some of these other streams as we get more little trinkets and stuff. We'll try to, if you guys like doing, I mean, I don't look at this as like being cheap. I look at this as giving you guys a contribution. We'll pay for the shipping and all that stuff, and you guys ask us questions and stuff like that, and we like making sure that you guys have cool stuff. So,
all right, sorry, distracted. Questions. Okay, participants.
So we're grabbing all the folks in the chat right now, and we're gonna grab all of the
How slow? You'd probably be faster with this.
No, you're fine. Yeah, just get them all pasted in there, and
Okay,
we'll.
there's YouTube is done. Last chance for Twitch. Who else is joining?
Yeah, you're fine. Just add them in there. This is what we're giving away right now, and then I will work with you guys. Are going to be emailing me with your name that's called out here, and then I'll reach back out to you on how you can verify that with us, and we will get your address and we will ship this out to you guys. Or it could be all the different locations that you guys can do. See your crypto Ron. Crypto Ron with a 50 spot at the end. Yeah, reach out to us here. We can do a remote session or whatever, buddy. We'll set something up. If you need to ask some questions, you can ask some questions to us on here, and we can
All right.
get you dialed in. Okay, she's got all the stuff in there with the smoking 50 spot in there. Crypto Ron, we did miss you. I see another question. I have a 13 580s ASRock H110 Pro, 2400 power supply, dual mining, my hash rate drop, back up. Okay. So your hash rate's all over the place. There is a Theodore. Have you tried it without dual mining? And does your hash rate stay stable? Because if you do, you could be having a load issue on one of the power supplies, not being able to give you the right amperage, and it's dropping your cards into like a safe mode and dropping your hash rate some.
You ready? Plug it in.
Yep, let's plug her in here.
Do some work.
We'll get this juice plugged in. Buy the future. Get a Bitcoin shirt.
Saw the Twitter poll about GPU. What happened with that?
So we did a poll to say if we were trying to do a big purchase of GPUs. Hold on, let me switch to camera view. We on there now? Yeah. And I wanted to, if we were able to make a purchase, yep, you can hear all the main screen now. Don't hit it right 1 second. If you're able, so the question on that last super chat was, we did a Twitter poll on about 4 or 5 different GPUs to see if we were to do a large group buy with a vendor, such as like MSI, to where what was the required amount that I would have to purchase for a BBT branded GPU. Like if I wanted to have a Shroud with a popular gaming graphics card, let's just say the Twin Frozer or something like that. Let's say it had like the blue kind of colors to it and all that, and it had like mining edition BBT or something. What was my minimum set that I would have to buy to have a customized like Shroud and all that kind of stuff? And talking to a few vendors out there that happen to do a lot of stuff with GPUs at the North American Bitcoin Conference, they said the minimum set would be about 5,000 cards. Now that's about $2.1 million worth of cards if you're looking at like not crazy exorbitant prices. So that's quite a bit, obviously, and looking at what type, if we were to able to secure that kind of level of funding, just because I think it's one of those things that we would sell every card, right, at reasonable prices, of course. Like let's say if we did the 1070 Ti, we were able to bulk purchase those. Being fully transparent with you guys, that would be about $460 for those cards. We'd try to sell those for right at $500. That's retail price, right? Everybody right now would buy $500 1080 Ti or 1070 Ti's. That'd be $40 in margin. That's the way it works. What kind of card type would we have to get? Like I was telling you, a 1080 or 1070 Ti's, but if it was an RX 580, 470s, there's different price levels there. I mean, 269, 329, something like that. What would people be interested in?
Refresh the chat.
Overwhelmingly, people chose the 1070 Ti for reasonable prices.
Crypto Ron is looking to purchase quite a few GPUs to where he may be able to help.
Well, yeah, so that's the kind of thing. It's like what Crypto Ron and a couple of the other folks that have reached out to us directly have said, hey, I'm looking for a space to, they have investors. They want people that want to get into the space. They can't get cards. What's it going to take? So I'm trying to bridge that gap of trying to find a vendor, and then we'll have a branding piece of it just to say, it's a BBT card. I want to work with a vendor that will actually work on very specific things that make sense for mining cards, stripping out a few things that we don't need, making sure the shrouds and the heat sinks are proper, that produce enough, to where we don't have to run the cards really hard, and we can have essentially this massive group buy, that isn't a quality card. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that it's not something that's not saying like these sapphires or some of these ones that have these plastic shrouds or nothing, but I want something that's proven. I want a twin Frozer Gaming X type of design, with maybe our colors on it, but I want something that's been proven, an Azu Strix, something that's a solid card. And then we buy enough of them because we'll be essentially paying for a production cycle. So right now the leading one is a 1070 Ti, and I'm still pursuing as much as I can for that, and we can reach out to people. So let's go back to this real quick, and that was kind of an update on that. We will keep you guys informed on Twitter, and I will reach out to people that are very serious about trying to help with the group buy.
What if
on
we
that.
set up some kind of like GoFundMe, and you know how they do the tiers, and if they put so much in, they secure a card?
Well, yeah, but I need to establish the linkage to make sure that when we hand money to people that they actually ship me cards.
Well,
and that's the part that I'm still working through.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Ready?
let's go ahead and hit random on this one. We're going to do 3 of these back to back. So, Quintech.
Let's see, is Quintech going to speak up in one of these?
Quintech. All right. And anybody that's left, here, yeah, just do another one.
Okay. Ready, go. 10-cent Tin Man. Tin can.
10-cent
Tin can.
tin can. Perfect.
I did the spaces right this time.
So if anybody, if we don't get anybody to reach out for this, it'll just be more that'll be available next round.
One more?
Yep, one more. Good luck, folks.
Tempus?
Tempus?
64.
64.
Anybody?
That's the 5. Do one more. You already close it?
No.
Do one more. One more.
10-cent Tin Can is on Twitch. Yay.
Do one more.
A bonus.
Bonus round.
TechTuber 1.
TechTuber 1. There it is. That's 6. Under promise and over deliver, folks. That's what that is. And then, of course, we're going to get Richard Porter for that crazy spot. Bonus round.
You didn't fix the chat.
I did.
Well, it says it's not there.
Well, it's because you're running a delay.
What did I win? You won a mouse pad.
You won a mouse pad. Oop. No source, video source, because I just canceled it. All right, guys. Cool. So we got those 6 coming out. You guys, bitsbetrippin at gmail.com. Put in the description your name, and I will reach back out with you for you can verify that that is actually you, because I know a lot of people will just say I am TechTuber1, and I'm going to have probably 10 of those. And then we will get your address, and we'll ship you out that piece, and we have some other little stickers and stuff that we include with stuff. We have these little BBT stickers that you can put onto your rigs that we'll throw out there. So we're going to wrap this one up for today. Hopefully some of that stuff has been good content for you guys and explanation on how things are going with there. I know I don't get to cover everything that you guys want me to cover. You guys can put suggestions out there. I'm also going through the suggestion window that you guys have out on Discord. I have went through and put a lot of those things up. We keep a whiteboard over here of things that we need to get done and get through. We've been out of town the last like 4 weeks essentially. I mean, between Miami and the North America Bitcoin Conference, I still have a lot of content to still get through for you guys for that. And then get some videos. I'm going to still slow roll a couple more videos out there for that that we have. And then, having just went to CES still and trying to consume some of that. I have a lot of different contacts I've been trying to get arranged for a mining conference. We kind of told you guys that we were looking to try to put one of those together. I am actually not going to put that together. I am trying to incentivize Keynote, which put on the North American Bitcoin Conference, to have those folks kind of put that together. And then, of course, I would come out there as one of the guest speakers to go out there and kind of, I'd call it rally the base. But, you know, I'll try to be a keynote speaker there, considering it is mining. And then maybe we'll work with some of the other tech YouTubers. I'll reach out to them. And if we can get one of the larger tech YouTubers to be there, and then have a nice discussion about gaming and where it's at. I'm trying to get kind of a fireside chat right now. Don't mind the dog. A kind of a fireside chat of sorts. Let me manage the dog here.
All right, here, you come back. I'll go.
And
Yes, he runs away.
little yappy dogs sit there and you know, have those things. So having like a fireside chat with like a Jay's 2 cents or Linus or something. I'm trying to establish that. We have contacts with all of them. I have contacts with Linus' group, media group, and with Jay's 2 cents, Barnacle, all that. I want to do a fireside style chat with the larger gamer tech YouTubers. I want to try to rally the base with the, you know, the industry on trying to come to terms on how are we going to handle mining in 2018. There is a lot of stuff coming down with mining in 2018. There's new algorithms, there's new proof of effort type of stuff, which is going to be global compute pieces. And we need to figure a way that makes sense for pricing and stuff. Allows people to come on and off of, you know, mining at a reasonable price. So if we can establish that, I would like to have that as part of it too. Notionally, time-wise, again, we haven't fully vetted out when this mining conference would be. That's really predicated on when a facility is open and where it's going to be. So, and then from a pricing standpoint, I'm trying to get it as cheap as possible. More than likely, if we're having Keynote, somebody like Keynote doing it, it's not going to be like super cheap. We're probably talking $500 tickets. I'm trying to get that about half of that if possible. But bottom line, those kind of events are pricey because you have different vendors and opportunities, and plus there's kind of just the way that they maintain the tickets sell out really fast. If they're $50 tickets, like you guys will blink, and if you didn't know it was happening, they're all going to be bought. So we're trying to make sure. Oh, there they are. I'm trying to keep it though. I don't want it to be $1,000 ticket or anything stupid like that. So we'll reach out to you guys on what opportunities are there, and then you know, different swag groups and stuff like that. I've been to a lot of different conferences that have, you know, a lot of given swag and you know, make you feel like you've had something to show for the money that you spent there, and hopefully it's really good, tangible information. I've done my share of conferences where I went there and I was just like, that was some pretty good information, but I could have watched that on YouTube. I want it to be more of an interactful experience, and I want real, true, genuine feedback coming back from the community, from the miner's voice, on, you know, what we care about, because this is a very non-correlated world when it comes to cryptocurrency. The miners are already compensated for the stuff that we do, right? That's what we do. We mine and we get a token. So as far as the rest of the world, if anybody's trying to understand why, you know, well, why don't they ever talk about the miners, or why aren't the miners as part of the conversation? You got to understand the construct of blockchain technology in general when it comes to cryptocurrency mining. And as far as everybody else is concerned, we are taken care of. And that if you participate in the network, you are rewarded for it, right? So there's not, and a lot of people's developers and that kind of mindset, we don't need to be part of that conversation. And in reality, I think we do, because obviously if somebody starts toying with the way rewards and stuff work, it directly affects us, especially if we've made investments. So I'm trying to change the tone on that. I'm trying to do what I can from a tonal. Being in the space and having a channel, we're not the largest channel. Hopefully you guys can help us become that, because that gives us weight and voice to make sure people are hearing us. So I think a mining conference will help drive that awareness. I think the fireside chats with the right kind of people on the, you know, gaming scene could help bridge that gap of where cryptocurrency is going. I think we bridge in part of that also with the esports piece. So you have the esports folks coming in. There's a lot of trading of skins, a lot of value transfer there. It's ripe for stuff like eBoost, which is one of the currencies that are out there. On Bitrex, you got eBoost. It's about a 50-cent coin right now, being used right now for trading of skins, right? So people that are trading, you know, CSGO skins and all that stuff in Discord, using eBoost as part of that activity. Usable cryptocurrency to, you know, assets that are being transferred that could be tied back to it. So, you know, we posted the video out there on what eBoost was, for example. But bringing those worlds together in a conference to make sure the suppliers, the consumers of the currencies all are in the kind of in the same room with the mining set point. So hopefully you guys like that. Like, subscribe, share, help us grow not just our channel but the community in general. You can check us out on bitsbetrippin.io, and
Mouse pads will be there, and possibly lanyards.
Yep, mouse pads, lanyards. We'll get these
Soon
things
to be
shipped out to you
coffee
guys.
mugs.
Yeah, we got some coffee mugs coming too. I'm a big coffee drinker, so thanks for hanging out with us, guys, in the super chats. Hopefully I got to everything. Let's make one last check. I don't want to leave anybody hanging here for those. Theodore, if I didn't properly answer you all the way, buddy, just send us a note and I'll see if I can get it answered. There's a few options I think you got there still on testing. Try it without dual mining. But stay tuned and we'll catch you guys later. Give them away.